Double crossing, revelations, and a hunt? Let's talk about Surface Season 2, Episode 7. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watcher Pass, and it's Surface Day. It's Surface Season 2, Episode 7. What comes around? It comes to Apple TV Plus on April 4th, 2025. This is the 7th episode in Surface Season 2. I believe it's 8 episodes long, so this is the one that sets up the finale. This is the penultimate episode. Is this episode should give us all the answers, right? Well, not really, but is this episode worth your time? My hot take is I actually think you should watch it. I liked this episode. I liked it a lot. It's actually my favorite episode, I think, in Surface Season 2. It is an episode with a lot more answers, some fun writing, really great music, and some sinister aspects. It's not perfect. Look, it's Surface Season 2. It's never going to be perfect, but I like this episode a lot. I thought it kind of like gave us glimpses into a lot of the characters, gave us, like I said, some revelations, and sets up nicely for what should be an interesting finale. I don't know if it sets it up enough, but this is definitely on the right track, so I'm excited to see what happens next. So, all that being said, I'm going to tell you about the episode, a few things I like, a few things I didn't like, and then really quickly go into a recap. So as you can imagine, there'll be spoilers in the recap section. If you don't know what happens in this episode, and you might not, there are some big surprises, some big answers that we get. I would turn it off when I get to the recap. Before that, though, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler free. Let's try to get to those spoilers. So, in Surface Season 2, Episode 7, it continues right where Surface Season 2, Episode 6 left off. Remember, at the end of that, Tess slash Sophie went to the, wedding announcement party for Quinn and Grace. She confronted her father. Her father told her the story about what happened to her mother. Then she left. She kind of like got some beef with the family, and she got back, and her safe was gone, and so was James. So, this episode continues that. We find out a little bit more about what happened to that safe, what happened to James, and what might happen to Sophie. So, things I liked about this episode. The first, I still love the cast. I really love the cast, and I liked Phil Dunster in this episode a lot. I thought he was a little more sinister. I thought he kind of like played a few kind of interesting roles. Again, I don't love the character turns that we've been having, but it is at least fun to see them kind of play these different characters, especially how Quinn started this season. Second thing I liked, there's some fun writing here. There's some fun dialogue between the characters, some fun dialogue between Quinn and James, some fun dialogue between like Henry and Quinn, some emotional scenes, things like that. I like the writing a lot more in this episode, and I think that bodes well for the next one. Third thing I love the music. There is some good music here, some dark kind of like techno music at times, and some Baroque kind of like gothic music as well. I don't know if Baroque's the right word, but it definitely feels a little more gothic, fits with the overall tone of this episode and the setting. The fourth thing I love the drama. We get more drama. We get some, we get Tess trying to figure out what to do next. We get James trying to figure out what to do next. We get a lot of the characters trying to figure out what to do next. A lot of confrontations, a lot of like heated emotions. And look, if you're watching Surface, that's probably what you're here for. So it is nice to get it. And the last thing I like Callum's character. Callum has been hit or miss throughout the season, but I liked it in this episode. I thought he, seemed to care a little bit more. He seemed to kind of like be a little bit more genuine than we've seen him in the past. It feels like he is kind of like letting some of his guard down as he's trying to figure out what to do next. So, all that being said, things I didn't love as much. The first, character changes. This happened last episode, and it's kind of continued here. Some of the characters seem to have pretty abrupt character changes for the convenience of the story, for like aha moments. I think, we'll see if these stick, but some of the characters seem to go from, one kind of like characterization to another very quickly and very conveniently. Second thing I didn't love as much, there's a strange middle sequence. It's not bad, it's just weird. I'll go into that in the recap. I don't have to worry too much about it here, but it kind of felt out of character with the rest of the episode. So, all that being said, Surface Season 2, Episode 7 comes to Apple TV Plus on April 4th, 2025. Like I said, I think you should watch this one. It feels like Surface is on the upswing, and we will see what happens next episode. We'll see if it continues. So, if you do watch it, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I'd love to hear it. I'm going to really quickly go into a recap right now. So, if you don't know what happens this episode, I'll turn it off now because there will be spoilers. So this episode actually has a lot of different like shifts for the characters. We get a lot kind of like individual storylines. I'm going to break it up into two main categories. We'll have the Huntleys first, and then we'll have the Ellises. Some of that will overlap a little bit, but I'm going to do my best to keep it reasonable. So, starting with the Huntleys. So last episode ended with James being kidnapped, and this episode we find out what happened. He was kidnapped by Quinn, and Quinn forces him to hang out on his party bus, get drunk, and chill with escorts. And I was like, I mean, that doesn't seem so bad. Like, this is supposed to be like a threatening, sinister scene. And he's like riding around on a party bus with a bunch of Quinn's friends. Yeah, sure, they are forcing him to drink, but like, in the grand scheme of things that could happen when you get kidnapped, this does not seem so bad. This actually seems kind of fun. Like, maybe James can loosen up and, make friends with Quinn's friends. Maybe they can all be friends together. I mean, he is family, so why not, right? Well, the next morning, he wakes up, and it becomes a little bit more sinister, but it felt like a weird setup for this like sinister scene. Quinn is in the party bus with James. James wakes up and he like, basically threatens James, says, "You do not think I would find out what you did with my fiance," and blah 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 blah. And then basically he threatens he tells James to stay away from them, or else he'll tell Tess about James's tryst with Grace. So meanwhile, Eliza remembers more about the car. Remember, she asked, I think, her aunt about the car, and she remembered when she was talking to her aunt about the car that Emma apparently died in, that she saw one in the forest, and she's thinking more about the car, and she remembers that it wasn't on fire. Henry had said that when Emma died, she was being erratic. She drove the car away, veered off on a tight turn, burst into flames. You couldn't save her. But when Eliza remembers the car, it was in the forest. It was covered in like weeds, but it didn't look like it had been on fire. It looked like it was just sitting there. So she goes back to find it, and it's gone. She ends up confronting her aunt and says that she wants to know what actually happened to, Tess's mom, to Emma. And her aunt says, seems to say like, her aunt is surprised by what Henry is saying happened, but then she seems like she's going to tell Eliza what actually happened, but she says that it can never get out. And then we don't find out what actually happened because that's when the scene cuts. So presumably Eliza might now know what happened to Tessa's mom, the big secret that we're all kind of waiting for. Well, one of the big secrets we're kind of waiting for. Meanwhile, Quinn goes on this very strange pre-marriage hunt, I guess. Um, it's I guess a tradition for Huntley men that they go on and like try to like run away from their friends, their past demons, which is their old friends, and like some their animal instincts, which is some dogs. It's okay. I really liked the writing here when Henry is kind of like talking about the sacrifices that you have to make and things like that. It's a nice little, kind of like setting the scene for what we imagine Henry for some of the revelations we get about Henry later. And I also liked how we talked about, raising Quinn and things like that. So the writing was good. Scene was not so great. Eventually, Quinn is taken to the woods. He's given a head start. But while he is running, James surprisingly gets there and tackles him. James threatens him, tells him he has to tell James what happened to Tess's mother. And Quinn gets mad at him. He says he's trying to keep him alive. And I was like, that's a weird scene. But then I thought a little bit more. I wonder if that whole like party bus scene where they got drunk was partly Quinn, wanting to kind of like threaten James, but also it might have been a way to like make a very public statement that James is around here, and that would be like the last place where they saw James if anything happened to him. So it would put the family in a bad light. So I think that might be what Quinn was talking about. Quinn was alluding to. He had like taken James onto this bus. All of his friends had seen him. He then kind of threatened him later and told him to get lost. So it might have been a way to get James out of there with a lot of witnesses and then also kind of keep him alive. Now, meanwhile, Henry is back at the Huntley Manor and is given a package of goods from Sophie and Tess's flat, including that USB stick and Sophie's death certificate, the real Sophie's death certificate, the 6-year-old Sophie's death certificate. Um, Then Quinn shows up and Henry gets mad at him because Quinn has brought James to the house. He tells him like, there's all the witnesses here. What are you doing? Again, it kind of fits in line with some of the things that Quinn might have done with that party bus. And then Quinn just very quickly is like, oh, since we're airing dirty laundry, what did you do? Did you or Grandpa kill your mistress? He's talking about Emma. Uh, as a weird kind of like push and pull here, like Henry's yelling at him for bringing like a random guy, and Quinn's like, "Did you kill your old mistress years ago?" But I guess it kind of puts it out there because then Quinn also alludes that Henry had Phoebe killed, which is one of the big mysteries we haven't figured out. And Henry doesn't deny any of it, so we don't really know. But he's been kind of coy about whether or not he said it, whether he's anything. But he does at least say that, you don't know what you're capable of, and sometimes you have to like do things you don't think you're capable of. So it implies that Henry is the one that at least killed Phoebe, but we don't know that yet. Um, Henry then goes and confronts James, tells him he has to go. He gives James a package of materials. We don't know what's in there. Presumably, maybe the USB stick is in there. The Huntleys don't care about $8 million, so that might be in there. Some of the other materials might be in there. We don't know. And then he tells his men to take James to the edge of the property and let him find his own way home. Now, later, Henry is in that dark room and he's developing old pictures of Emma. And that was a thing that I mentioned earlier when Sophie went to that red room. She found this like mysterious red room, and in there was a picture of her mom. And I was like, does Henry just sit there and develop these like 10, 20, 30-year-old pictures of his ex-mistress? Apparently he does. Apparently that's what he does. So there we go. Now going over to the Ellises. After James's night on the party bus, tortured on the party bus, whatever you want to call it, he goes by Tess's and finds that there was a break-in and they took Tess's safe. Now this is a key because we thought that it was James that took this stuff. He apparently didn't. He didn't know anything about this, and so later, Tess had a dream about, I think, the night that she left. It shows, a young Tess and her mother leaving that place that they had been staying, that apartment that Tess's friend is at, and going in the middle of the night, driving, and then there was a storm of some sort. You can see lightning in the window, and then she wakes up. So we don't know yet what happened, but we will find out. It seems like maybe her mother was trying to get Tess away, and something might have happened then. We'll see. Now, meanwhile, Callum, and I put Callum in the Ellises because their stories kind of intertwine. Callum is talking to his editor, and his editor wants to publish the story, but she says that Sophie can't be anonymous. Now, Callum calls Sophie and meets her at an apartment that his friend owns. And there he tells Sophie about Claire and the fact that she was working with Quinn Huntley. And because of this, they can publish a story, but Sophie's name has to be in it. She's like, I don't, but that wasn't the deal. He's like, well, the deal's changed. Like, I'm sorry. Claire, the information is out there. So if we don't do it, the Huntleys will, and we should probably control the narrative. They should be the ones to publish it so they can tell the story rather than have react to the Huntleys, some sort of smear campaign or something coming up, and then they would have to look like they're on the defense. Now, meanwhile, after this, Tess goes to meet with Eliza. Tess tries to get her to help her, and Eliza's like, I can't help you. But Eliza's the one that asked for this meeting. She texted Tess and was like, hey, let's meet. I mean, Tess was talking to her, but like, hey, Eliza, let's talk, let's talk. And Eliza's like, can we meet up? And then when she gets there, Eliza's like, I can't help you. Like she did try to tell her to like back away, like she was trying to save their lives. Seems like both of the Huntley kids are trying to help various Ellises survive. But it was weird because she did set up the meeting, and then when Tess gets there, she's like, "I can't help you, but you should back down." Now later, Quinn is showering after his hunt, and he seems like maybe he has a change of heart. You can't really tell. He goes to the driver that Henry had earlier just said, take James to the edge of the property and drop him off. He says, message from my father, change of plans. And we don't know what those change of plans are, but we do see them throw James in the trunk of a car and drive away. When they get to some location, they use James's phone to call Sophie, and Sophie goes to like rescue him. James says he needs help. They drop a pin. Sophie goes there with Callum. And when they get there, they find James in the trunk of the car. Sophie gets him out. James is like surprised that Sophie came for him, which is kind of a big deal, but it's nice. And then Sophie gets James out of there, and they drive away in the car that James is in, which I was a little surprised at. Maybe this might be the rental car, so maybe James has to return it. Maybe he doesn't want to get like some sort of big fine. But it was weird that they jumped in that car, and then Callum jumped in his car and drove behind them. Now James and Sophie are driving, and while they are driving, a car comes up behind them and runs them off the road. And when the car goes off the road, that is when this episode stops. So what do we think happened? Well, could this be the change of plans that um, Quinn was talking about? Maybe the whole change of plans was to have this happen, was to try to get James and so try to like eliminate James and Sophie. Who knows? I don't think so though, because Quinn was trying to save James. Eliza is trying to save Tess. I don't think that they would then go and turn around and try to kill them. I think that what would happen, I think this is a staged event. I think this was probably Quinn's idea to like stage it, make it look like someone, drove them off the road. Maybe they're gonna set the car on fire. Maybe they're gonna do something. I assume that, James and Tess will be okay. Maybe they'll get like out of there. I think that's probably what's gonna happen. I don't think that this is an actual hit. I think it was a very public way to get them off the Huntley radar, at least off of Henry Huntley's radar, and get them like disappeared in England. Maybe they can go back to the States. That's kind of what I think, but we'll see. There's a lot of other questions though, like who actually ended up killing Phoebe? They've been projecting Henry for a while. I thought it was Grace. I don't know anymore. We haven't really seen much of Grace, but I still think it could be Grace. She seems to want to be in this family. She left a very beautiful picture frame note saying like that she was so excited to join. We'll see. It feels more like Henry is the projected killer of Phoebe. It seems more like Henry's father is the killer of Tess, of Emma. But we don't know again who killed Emma and how did she die. We don't know. It seems like she and Sophie were leaving late at night. Maybe they were afraid of Henry's father, of the the patriarch of the family, and so they were trying to leave. And then during the storm, something happened. Maybe something very similar to what just happened to Tess and James. We don't know. And also, who ordered the Ellis hit? Who ordered the like, driving them off the road? I think it was probably Quinn, but we will find out. Though we will find out. We will hopefully get answers to that and many more in Surface episode 8. But that is Surface episode 7. Like I said, I think you should watch it. I like this episode. This is probably my favorite episode of season 2. So if you check it out, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I'd love to hear it. And let me know what you think is going to happen. Let me know who you think killed Emma, who you think is did this thing to Tess, and how you think it's going to happen. And let me know who you think killed Emma, who you think killed Phoebe, who ordered this like Ellis family hit, and I'd like to hear all of it. Oh, and also one thing I thought was interesting is Callum, the reporter, is there, so he's kind of a witness, which is again a weird thing that they would have done. You'd think if they were going to take them all out, they would have just like shot everyone. So the fact that Callum is there and saw it very publicly could be another thing that could help that could help, make this publicly disappear. Like have a story about how this happened, and then that could help James and Sophie to like get out of here. So again, if you watch it, let me know what you think. Let me know what you like and didn't like. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you. Now later, Henry is in his that red